This entry is well into the story. Um, the native of the game world has taken up cage matches as a form of income and a way of finding herself. She has some identity crises. And so they have been studying at a martial arts studio, trying to learn ways to not overpower their opponents with mixed results. This is entry number 95 by Steve, the husband, titled Harm's Way. I keep having to tell myself we're in this together. I suppose normal wasn't ever really going to be an option for us as long as we were living off the grid. But when things go sideways for you, even if you sort of saw it coming, you're still left feeling like it was happening sooner than expected. Dire entry style, yes. The day started out normal enough. Mark called last night to confirm that the guys were up for a training session, so today Tsu'na and I headed for Tony's. When we got there, we saw Mark and Chester, and Ted showed up a bit later. This time, Scott didn't show. I asked Chester about it. So I guess being an investment consultant doesn't always mean you can keep your own hours, huh? Investment consultant? Yeah, isn't that what Scott is? He told you that? Ah, that's cute. I gotta remember that. Scott's a bookie. That explained a lot, like how we hung out at fights and had such an interest in knowing what Tuna could do, and how he never asked me about how well my IRA was doing. This time, Ted was teaching throws. Tuna could, of course, grab and throw someone at will. The trick was to do it without snapping a neck, breaking a back, or, if possible, dislocating a limb. Tony actually proved useful for this. Seems he knows his stuff. He prepped Mark and Chester on how to fall properly, looking to hit with the shoulder and roll, keeping the head tucked. Ted, meanwhile, got Tsuna started on the idea of redirecting force, letting a charging opponent keep charging without her in its path. Mark was happier with being thrown than he had about punching her. Guess he was falling for her enough to fall for her. That's something we'll have to dissuade sooner or later. Which left Chester idle enough to be looking out the storefront window from time to time. 20 minutes into training, he came over to me and said, "Hey, I don't know if it's anything, but there's a car that's driven by at least 3 times. Real heavy window tint." Not ominous at all. I positioned myself so that he and I both had our sides to the window. "Keep your eyes on me. Tell me if it comes by again." We stood and chatted for a bit until Chester's eyes briefly jerked to the left. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see a faded gray sedan passing by, slowing slightly in front of the dojo before driving on. Its windows were indeed too dark to see through, especially when I was trying to not look like I was looking. I started to wonder about Chester's suspicious nature, but then I was glad for it. Scoping out for a robbery? A dojo isn't a cash-heavy business, and aside from that, there isn't typically much of interest in one. Striking dummies, maybe some wooden weapons. And in this case, us. "Tabitha, my love." She took a beat to react to the unfamiliar name, but she looked up from having dumped Mark flat on his back. "Yes, husband?" "How about we get some air?" She glanced at Ted at Mark. "Right now?" "I think so." She studied me a moment, then went to the changing room. There was a pull-down blind on the window. I pulled it down while Chester herded the guys to the other side of the room. When she came out in Earth normal, we went out the door and stopped in front of the dojo. She turned to me and asked, "What is happening?" "Bandits, I think. Gray car with really dark windows. Maybe Chester's paranoid, maybe he's got me paranoid." What is paranoid? An irrational fear that someone is out to get you. What if someone is truly out to get you? Not mutually exclusive. She was going to say something else, but stopped when she spotted something behind me. I turned to see the gray car in question. It had slowed down. Its windows were rolling down. I switched to Paladin and got my shield up just before the bullets started flying. A lot of bullets went into a couple cars parked along the curb. A lot more went into the dojo window. I heard it shatter. Some pinged off my shield and armor. The shooters had more enthusiasm than skill. The engine revved, and the car started to pull off fast. I expected to hear the creak of Tsu'na's bow behind me. Instead, I heard the rustle of her book. There was a flash inside the car. It was partly into turning around the corner, but instead went straight across the intersection and slammed into a lamppost very shortly before a delivery truck plowed into it from its side. I switched to Earth Normal and turned to Tsu'na, who likewise switched from Summoner. Energy drain? Energy siphon. I could not target quickly enough. Energy siphon is the area effect version of the Summoner instant spell Energy Drain. At Tsu'na's level, everyone in the car would have been dead with a flash. Had the car simply rolled to a stop, there would have been 3 or 4 apparent heart attack victims inside, which would have been weird and probably raised questions. As it was, between the lamppost and the T-boning and the recently used guns, I doubt anyone will look too closely at cause of death. But that's retrospective. It wasn't what was on my mind right then. What was on my mind was, she's now killed people. Which immediately amended to, we're in this together. We have now killed people. I grabbed her in a tight hug. She hesitantly returned it. Husband? I pulled back. I'll check on the guys. Stealth over there and get a look at them, see if you recognize them. Take pictures if you can. Pictures? Of the dead? Trust me, people in this world do that. Go. She pursed her lips but nodded, switched to ninja, and vanished to non-party eyes. I went back in the dojo. The guys were crowded into a corner away from the window. Tony found his voice first. What the fuck was that? That was a drive-by. Anyone hurt? No one seemed to be. Chester asked, They coming back? No, they're dead. Palpable silence. They crashed their car while driving away. Sure. Okay. Why would somebody be shooting at your place, Tony? How the hell would I know? No problems with the mob? Loan sharks, protection rackets, drug dealers? Only problem I have is you people. Wishful thinking. It would have been nice if this wasn't our personal problem, but the shooting didn't start until we were in clear view. Okay. Anyone been talking about us? Mark? Chester? You said if people knew about your wife, it'd hurt her career, said Mark. We wouldn't want that. Yeah, added Chester. It would mess up our betting. Mark shrugged. That too. What about Scott? Where is he, anyway? Off somewhere with family. He's got a bigger stake in her than we do. Ted? Just the wife, and she doesn't want to hear what I do out of the house. I nodded and turned to the product of elimination. Tony, who'd you talk to? No one. Really? I walked slowly toward him. No one? Really? He backed up against a wall mirror. I didn't talk to anyone. That's not what you said. Who'd you talk to? I don't know, just some guy at a bar. It wasn't anything. A guy. At a bar. What bar and when? Polly's Pub. Last Tuesday, after the last time you guys were here. Fern bar a couple blocks over, said Chester. I leaned in on Tony. I told you not to talk to anyone. I told you very specifically not to talk to anyone. We just got shot at because you didn't listen to me. How the hell was I supposed to know? It was just talking. He was a good listener. My fist slammed into the mirror beside Tony's head. It was polished metal rather than glass, so it didn't shatter, but it did buckle a little. You put these people in harm's way. You endangered my wife. I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was sufficiently distracting that no one noticed Tsu'na unstealth in the doorway, though she was quite arresting in her black leather and holstered daggers. Many people were taking pictures. People dressed like Deputy Frank made them leave. She took in the tableau. Why are you frightening Master Shen? Master Shen can't keep his mouth shut. She turned to Tony, her eyes narrowed. I was being violent. She was looking dangerous. Tony was apparently torn over who to be more frightened by. Did you recognize them, my love? No. Do you? She held up her phone with a picture of bodies in a car. They were scruffy, but not the right kind of scruffy for the bit or Wyatt in general. A bit too urban. Haven't seen them. Tony? Tony's back was already against the wall, but he still tried to back away from the picture. He jerked his head in a negative. All right, listen to me. Tony? I snapped my fingers in front of his eyes. Listen to me. Here's what's going to happen. You got a back door? Tony nodded. You're going to show us out the back door. When the police come... The police are coming? Someone shot out your window. Of course the police are coming. When they do, we were never here. You were alone in here when the shooting started. With me so far? Another nod. We'll come back later with some plywood for the window. We're looking to get it replaced. And tonight, we're going with you back to that bar. I don't want any part of this. Someone shot out your window. You're already a part of this. We don't know these guys, so someone sent them. We need to know who. They don't know where to find us, but they know where to find you. What makes you think the guy will even be there? If he set this up, he'll want to know what happened. We'll tell you what to say. I got even more in his face. Don't flake on us, Tony. We'll be even more unhappy than we already are. Understood? He understood. He had a shattered window and a dented wall to remind him. We left. The guys parted with us. We returned. Tsu'na went to tell the Hartmans we had a friend who needed some help this evening. I stopped by the pit for a cider on the way to the workshop, because I needed to air my mind. I have plywood to make. My wife and I have a date with Tony for drinks and a meet and greet. And then we'll probably talk about killing people. I wonder if she made any gill. Paranoia seems valid. Yeah, it does. They have a sort of history of incidents. This is the latest one. Funny and great pacing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully I can keep it up for another book. Entry number 96 by Tsu'na, Eftbegotten Worm. Just a heads up, Tsu'na Googles a lot when she's writing her entries. Googling. Fern bar, an American slang term for an upscale or preppy or yuppie bar or tavern catering to singles, usually decorated with ferns or other greenery, as well as such decor as fake Tiffany lamps. Preppy, an American subculture associated with the alumni of college preparatory schools in the northeastern United States. Yuppie, short for young urban professional, a term for a young professional person working in a city. Tiffany lamps, a type of lamp made with a camed glass shade designated by Louis Comfort Tiffany or colleagues and made in originals in his design studio. Yes, camed glass is a thing. The lamps in the pictures in Wikipedia are pretty. I never saw their like in Eorzea. Perhaps I will try to make one after I make Tony's window. Husband has been a sort of quiet tonight. He said things, but I think there are things he did not say. I recognize this pattern. This is the deer again. Husband said he had not killed in this world before coming to Eorzea. In Eorzea he killed many things. We killed many things together. But not here, in his world, where he called things real. Before meeting me, before coming back here, in his world he had not killed a deer, or a pig, or a cow, or a gator, or a hare. Perhaps he thought he was home. Perhaps he thought this world would be different, that he would not need to kill. But he has killed many things here now, and now he insists he has helped kill people. I was the one who took action, but he is taking responsibility. He said once before that someone who kills once is more accepting of the idea of killing as a way to solve a problem. Since he believes he helped kill people, perhaps he is more accepting of killing again, if it is needed. I think he is changing. Perhaps I am helping him change, or causing him to. I hope it is a good change. He has not told me he killed anyone tonight, other than the ones we killed. I was not with him all evening. After I spoke with Mr. Hartman at the diner, and husband had made some plywood, we took the bus back to Tulsa and returned to Tony's school. The guards, correction, deputies, correction, police had come and put thin yellow plastic strips over the window that did nothing to cover the space. Tony was sitting on a chair in the main room. He looked tired and confused. I got him to show me to his cleaning supplies while husband installed the plywood. Husband had already finished by the time we returned with a broom and vacuum. Tony did not seem to notice. We let him sit while we cleaned up broken glass. Most of the glass was inside the school, but there was some outside too that needed to be swept. Glass is different from crystal. It is much sharper, especially when it is broken into long, thin pieces. Husband found an empty box in Tony's back room to hold the glass. I cut my fingers a few times while picking glass up, though I healed quickly enough. Tony simply watched, or perhaps simply sat. When we were done cleaning, husband told Tony to change into his regular clothes. He emerged looking more like a merchant than a fighter. Husband explained how he wanted things to happen. We'll go with you to the bar. You won't see us. We're good at not being noticed. But rest assured we'll be there. What do you mean I won't see you? Look at my wife. I had already shifted to ninja and stealth before Tony turned to look at me, or for me. While he stared, husband did the same, so he was not to be seen when Tony turned back. I left stealth, but kept my ninja gear. I rested my hand on Tony's shoulder, which made him jump. I told him, "We will be there. You will be safe." He looked at my black armor and daggers, and turned to see husband wearing similar gear. "You're ninjas?" "Among other things," said husband. "So let's go over what you're going to say." We followed Tony in stealth to what Chester had called a fern bar. It was much nicer than the Pit, or Murray's, or any tavern I remember from Eorzea. It had more tables separated by small walls with plants, which might have been ferns on top of them, perhaps meant as curtains for privacy. I saw lights on the tables, though none looked like Tiffany lamps. Most of the tables had two people at them, usually a man and a woman. Tony went to the bar, which was not very crowded. He ordered something called a mojito. White rum, sugar, lime juice, soda water, and mint, and sipped slowly at it when it came. No one approached Tony for a while. He had almost finished his drink when a man came to him. I recognized him. It was Clive, the head of the bandits from Myra's fights. I looked to husband, who nodded. He recognized Clive, too. There were other stools not being used, but Clive took a stool next to Tony and ordered a drink of his own. Bourbon, neat. Room temperature bourbon in a low wall glass. Before he turned to Tony and tapped him on the shoulder. Hey there. Didn't we talk last week? Tony slowly looked up at him. Yeah, think so. Clive studied Tony's face. You okay? More trouble with those people? Tony looked down at his drink. Someone shut off my front window. Really? When? This afternoon. That's terrible. Was anyone hurt? No, just the window. Oh, well, that's something. And no one caught in the crossfire? Just the window. Huh. Did they catch whoever did it? They're dead. What? Police said they crashed their car or something. That's... Huh. So, what are you going to do now? Don't know. Get it fixed, I guess. Trying not to think about it. Right. Sure. Clive gestured to the bartender. Hey, another round for my friend here. Look, I gotta get going, but you hang in there, okay? Tony nodded and stared at his drink. Clive patted his back and got up. I got husband's attention and pointed to myself, then at Clive. He nodded. As Clive moved away from the bar and I followed him, I saw husband shifting towards normal and leaning in to talk to Tony. Clive walked along the street until he came to a large car, like the trucks in Wyatt, but covered in the back rather than open. I could not see an easy way to enter it and wondered if I would need to follow him with the goo-goo. But as he opened the door, his phone rang, and he paused to answer it. I used the moment to slip past him into the car. Yeah, yeah, I heard. Yeah, but you didn't do the job. Yeah, but they didn't hit anyone. They didn't pull it off. Hey, it's not my fault they can't drive. They didn't do what I... But you didn't... But I... Clive listened silently for a moment and seemed to sag. No, no, I don't want that. I'll have your money. He stopped talking on the phone. He leaned against the car. I could hear him breathing heavily. Then he got in, started the car, and drove. He left the city and went to what husband called the suburbs, with streets of small houses and yards. His hands on the wheel looked tense. His face was not quite as miserable as Tony's, but was similar. He drove into the small street in front of one house and turned off the car. He simply sat in the car for a while, looking out through the front window. I do not think he was looking at anything. Then he got out, closed the car door, and walked toward the house. I did not have time to get out behind him. I opened the door on my side as quietly as I could and left it open rather than make noise closing it. He did not notice the open door as he unlocked the door to the house. I was able to slip in behind him as he stood for a moment in the doorway. I could hear young children playing somewhere. A woman in the house, who I think is Clive's wife, looked up as she was walking toward the back. She gave him a small smile and kept on going. I followed Clive to his kitchen, where he got a beer bottle out of the fridge. He opened it and took it to another room with a television. He turned the television on and changed shows until he found one showing news. He settled on the couch in front of the television to watch. I moved behind the couch, drew a dagger, and put it in front of his throat. Are you looking for me, Clive? He jumped a little when I spoke, but held still under my blade. What the hell are you doing here? You had people shoot at me. I thought we should talk about that. What did I tell you about not fucking with me? Get out of my house. I do not think you can tell me what to do, Clive. I have told you to leave me alone, and you have not done that. What must I do to make you leave me alone? He squirmed slightly, but did not answer. I know where you live now. I have seen your family. Do you care about your family? Do you want them to find you dead on this couch? Is that what must happen? He still did not answer. It made me angry. Could this Fuhrer try to have me killed and then think he could ignore me? I pressed my dagger slightly more firmly to his throat. Answer me, you eftbegotten worm! The woman from the before appeared in the doorway. Han, are you? She stopped and stared at me with wide eyes. Who are you? I am the woman this man tried to have killed because he lost money betting against me. You, he. Her face showed fear and shock and confusion before settling on anger directed at Clive. You've been gambling? Again? You said you'd stopped. I. How much money have you lost this time? She looked up at me. How much does he owe you? I am not here for money. I am here because he tried to have me killed. He owes other people money. She looked as angry as I felt. Perhaps making women angry is Clive's strongest skill. We almost lost the house last time. You said you would stop. We can't take out any more loans. I decided it was time to go. I had said what I could. That woman, probably Clive's wife, could take up the job of berating him. I withdrew my dagger and came around the couch. Clive and the woman stayed where they were, facing each other across the room. I stopped to say to the woman, keep him away from me if you want him to live. I could not tell from her face if that was in fact what she wanted right then. As I closed the house door behind me, I could hear her shouting at him again. I did not stay to hear what she was saying. I had had enough of Clive and simply wanted to go home. I returned and settled at the house to type this up. My master's husband is at the diner, like cleaning. I will leave him a note to read this when he gets back. I will try to use sleep to forget about Clive. I woke to have husband holding me. It was what I needed. When he woke, he asked me about my writing. Eft-begotten worm. I imagined a worm coming out of an eft with its shite. Ah, look up schistosomiasis. Do I truly want to? Probably not. Let's see. Is it hard writing one voice over another? Well, it's gotten better with practice. But aside from that, I have been working on giving each of them a voice from the start. Mine is pretty much like mine, I like to think, coupled with various authors I'm fond of. Hers is a little bit more stiff. She tends to use simple words, not because she's simple, but just because they're practical. She's a very practical person. She doesn't use contractions, ever. Has to Google a lot. I actually wrote a fact for the story, and in it, she says, in response to somebody asking, can you maybe have a glossary of stuff? And her response to that is, I must Google Earth words every day. Can you not Google Eorzea words? So yeah, when I go into writing one of her pieces, I totally have her voice in my head. I try to have her mindset in my head. Uh, it's an effort sometimes to write things as she is seeing them from the first time. Thought it maybe was more enjoyable to write one over the other, perhaps, but definitely see the characters for what they are. She does seem a bit more robotic. That could be my reading of it. Maybe I'm not putting enough inflection in her voice. You may actually get a better feel from reading it, especially in the early chapters. Um, like starting at entry number 12, you'll get more emotion out of her. You like it? Good to know. Tends to alternate between them, though there was one instance in book one, and there will be at least one in book three, where you're going to have a couple entries by the same person. Entry number 97 by Steve. Anger management. I admit I had mixed feelings when I learned Tsu'na had spared the parking lot guy. He tried to kill her. I suppose he indirectly tried to kill us. On the other hand, it means she knows restraint. I mean, I never expect you to go mowing down people indiscriminately, but it's still reassuring and reaffirming to know. Hopefully, her mercy won't come around to bite us in the ass like the die guy from Doma Castle, whose name I can never remember. But then we put him down in the end, just like all the others. I went to Flying Tigers in the morning. It occurred to me that whoever shot the window might be back. Not back from the dead, but Clive talked to someone on the phone, so that meant there were more of them. Tony was over his shock from yesterday and had the energy to be resistant to my presence. Hey, I'm just here to help out. Least I can do. What needs doing? I'm not hiring you. Free labor. Seriously. Put me to work. He glared at me for a bit, possibly sizing up my sincerity and wondering what he could get away with. Mirrors need polishing. On it. They in fact did need polishing. Most of it was handprints around waist level. I'm guessing from the kindergartners he got in by the busload. Except there wasn't a busload today. Nor were there any power lunchers or yoga ladies. Seemed a lot of people were put off by the window getting shot out. Since Tony didn't have customers distracting him, he was able to warm up to the idea of bossing me around. The mirrors got polished, the mats got scrubbed, the mats got folded back so the floor could be vacuumed. I started to feel a little bit like the kid Kane sweeping the temple in Kung Fu. But I wasn't there to learn martial arts. Not from Tony. Tony spent most of his time at the door, leaning against the wall and gazing out into the street. I wonder how long it'll take for business to pick up again. Replacing the window alone wouldn't do it. A drive-by carries a stigma. But maybe Tony's a decent salesman. Do have to get going, but it was nice hearing you read a snippet. Good night and happy writing. Thank you, Days Doodles. Nice to have you here. Hope to see you again. In the afternoon, the neighborhood youth demonstrated they weren't put off by criminal action. I think some of them thought it was cool and edgy that a martial arts school saw actual violence. They were less impressed with me. One boy asked me, "Who are you?" "I'm the new grasshopper." "The what?" "Padawan?" He gave me a funny look and wandered off. Gee, kid, way to make me feel old. There was nothing to clean with while Tony talked, so I took a break in the back room. I saw he had replaced the Bob Tuna and I had splintered. I had no real desire to splinter the current one, so I took out my phone to game for a while. I saw Tuna had messaged me. "Your engine arrived. I put it in the workshop." Like I'll be able to work on it while babysitting Tony. I started to think maybe I didn't need to babysit Tony after all. There hadn't been any problems all day, and the teenagers would be the last customers before Tony closed up. I saw them via mirrors from the back room. I saw them finish up their session. I saw the last of them finally wander out after getting some extra pointers from Tony. Then I saw a couple guys wander in. They didn't look like Tony's typical customers. They, in fact, looked rather like the dead guys Tsu'na had taken a picture of. Same kind of scruffy, though, of course, less dead. I stowed my phone, shifted to Ninja, and stealthed. I went into the main room to see what they were up to. For all I knew, they were there for martial arts training. They were not there for martial arts training. One lingered by the door while the other approached Tony, who perked up at the prospect of new customers on an otherwise lackluster day. Hi, welcome to Flying Tigers. Looking for training? The guy taking lead glanced around the room before focusing on Tony. You run this place? Sure do. I'm Master Shen. How can I help you? Looking for a woman. We heard she comes here. Lead guy pulled out his phone, fiddled with it, and showed it to Tony. Seen her? Tony's face fell into his familiar oh shit look. I can't really talk about my customers. Sorry. Who are you? Lead guy got closer to Tony. I'm the guy who really wants to know about this bitch, and you're going to tell me. I just said I can't. Lead guy reached up to grab Tony. Granted, Tony doesn't impress me and never did, but still, assaulting a martial arts instructor you don't know seems like a dumbass move. It certainly was in this case. Tony grabbed lead guy's arm, elbowed him in the chest, and flung him to the floor. Sadly, this was exactly the sort of thing we've been hoping he could teach Tsu'na when we first came to him. Had he actually taught us this stuff instead of pawning us off on Murray's, none of this would be happening. It might have worked for him if the two guys had been closer together, but Lookout was across the room and he suddenly had a gun. Hold it, asshole! Tony froze. Lead guy painfully picked himself up, rummaged for his own gun, which had come out of his pants when he hit the floor, and raised the barrel to Tony's chin. Nice move, dipshit. Maybe you can give me a lesson later. Now tell me about the woman. I don't know anything about her, okay? She said her name's Tabitha or something. She comes in here, we go over wrestling moves, that's it. That's all I know. How do you get a hold of her? I don't. She just shows up. I don't have her number or anything. Lead guy shoved his gun more firmly. That's not good enough. I could see this wouldn't end well for Tony. I could maybe backstab Lookout and make it to lead guy in time, but not before someone did something stupid. Even money on who that might be. It was time to pull aggro. I moved to the door, then shifted to Paladin, suddenly unstealthed, full armor, helm visible, visor down. Crypt Lurker gear is cryptic. All they would have seen is metal. I kicked at the door behind me like I'd just come in. I tried to make my voice deep and throaty as I yelled, Hey, who's in charge here? Everyone's eyes got wide and both guns shifted to me. I drew my sword and shield. Lookout was within reach, so I shield bashed him. He flew backwards, bounced off a mirrored wall, and landed in a heap on the floor. There was no blood on the mirror, which I hoped meant he was just out cold. Not that I particularly cared for his welfare, but if he was still alive, he could drag himself off in time. Tony did a duck and cover when lead guy started shooting. One shot went somewhere, two more bounced off my armor. I marched up to him, put my shield to his chest, and kept on marching until I pinned him to the wall. Drop the gun, I growled. He struggled, trying to angle his wrist around the shield to shoot at me again. I pulled back the shield and shoved the point of my sword into his gun arm. I said, drop it! I confess to having anger management issues. When I was younger, I'd smash my share of furniture and put my fist through various stretches of drywall. I didn't hurt people. That's what the furniture and drywall was for. This became less of an issue as I aged and lost the strength and energy for these expressions of anger. The anger was still there, just not the capacity to express it in ways other than grouchiness and road rage. When I got to Eorzea, I got my strength and energy back, and it only grew with time, but it was okay. The IPH there, idiots per hour, a term I coined during tech support work, though it also works well on the highway, was much lower. And even if I did need to vent, there was always something I could go out and kill, often for pay. Now I'm back on Earth, I've got much more strength and energy, and there are idiots here. Like the guy I was facing in Flying Tigers that was an associate of the people who shot up my wife. That my magnificent McHulch dealt with the people who shot at her wasn't the point. That lead guy wasn't the one who did the actual shooting wasn't the point. That said guy had been threatening someone who might not have respected much, but was still taking advantage of wasn't the point. At that particular moment, I might not have been clear on exactly what the point was, but I was very angry about it. Lead guy dropped his gun. I leaned in. Are you in charge here? He shook his head and gestured at Tony with his uninjured arm. Then who the hell are you? We're just... He had to grit his teeth against the pain. Looking for someone. Any chance that's a woman? Pro wrestler, wears cat ears and a tail in the ring? His eyes locked on my face, or at least my visor. He nodded. No, you're not looking for her. I'm looking for her. I've been after her for more than a year. What do you want her for? He seemed reluctant to talk. I was not at all reluctant to press harder on my sword. He hissed in his breath. We got paid to take her out, but our guys got killed when they tried. Who's we? Fuck you. I twisted the sword a smidge. He screamed. Who's we? Southside Longshots. I thought, that's a street gang? Sounds more like a community basketball team. I pulled the sword out of his arm. He grabbed the arm, breathing heavily. I got closer to his face. The woman you're after is dangerous as fuck. You approach her again, she'll probably kill you. You get in my way, I'll probably kill you. I raised my blade to his neck. I will carve you and your Southside Longshots like a Peking duck. She's all mine. I'm gonna get her. You understand? He managed to nod. Good. Now take your trash and get out of here. He started to lean down and pick up his gun. I grabbed him by the shirt and flung him toward Lookout. No, that trash. Get the hell out. Lookout was starting to come to at that point. Lead guy helped Lookout up with his good arm and started dragging him to the door. Lookout pointed his gun at me until lead guy muttered something to him. I turned to Tony and raised my bloody sword point at him. And you, what do you know about her? Tony was convincingly terrified. As I'd hoped, between the voice pitching and muffling by the visor, he didn't recognize me yet. Nothing. She just comes in here. Her name's Tabitha something. That's all I know. Where do I find her? I don't know. I swear. Next time I come back here, you better have some answers for me. I saw in the mirror that the Longshots had lingered a bit by the door, maybe hoping to overhear something useful. It was useful to me that there was nothing for them to hear. I swung my sword at them. I said leave! They left. I angled around to make sure that they were actually leaving and saw them get into a car. I turned back to Tony and raised my visor, only to see him pointing lead guy's gun at me. He blinked at my revealed face. You? I thought you were a ninja. Among other things, I holstered my sword and shield. What are you doing, Tony? He looked down at the gun in his hands. I was protecting myself? I sighed. That gun was dropped by a gang member. You might have just put your prints on a murder weapon. Oh, I was going to leave it somewhere for the police to find, but I can't do that now. Here. I held out a gauntleted hand. Tony reluctantly gave me the gun. I stuck it in inventory to desynthesize later. Southside long shots. Ever hear of them? One of the high schoolers might have mentioned them. I thought they were a basketball team. Okay, with any luck, they're now worried enough about me and my wife to not care about you, but I can hang out for a few more days to be on the safe side. You knew they'd come back? Didn't know. Thought it was possible. You could have told me! Thought it was obvious. You don't think they'll be back now? Hopefully not. Then I want you the hell out of here. I'm sick of having you come in here dragging your shit with you. Okay, just let us get the window open. I don't care about the window. It'll be bulletproof. Why would I need a bulletproof window? Why would anybody be shooting at me if you're not here? It's just safer, that's all. Good investment. A couple more days and you'll never see us again. Fine. Okay, I'm gonna go change. I looked down at the floor. Clorox for the blood? Dry sponge it first. I hope Tsu'na's making progress on her plexiglass. Let me adjust. Sitting in a spot for 3 hours now. Either I need a different spot or I need different padding. Entry number 98 by Tsu'na. Natasha. It has taken 2 days to make a window for Tony. Husband will be installing it tomorrow, as it seems I should not be seen at Flying Tigers again. If we continue training, we will need to find a new place. I read that more and longer strings make for stronger plastic, so I started with the protoplastic recipes that were the stringiest. I worked to make plastic that was clear and hard and make small pieces that I then tried to break. I was not sure how my strength compared to a bullet, but a bullet cannot lift a truck and I can, so I assumed the plastic I had trouble breaking would be strong enough. I needed to make more protoplastic recipes that were stringier still before I came up with the plexiglass that resisted my strength. I made 3 larger sheets of this in different thicknesses, 1/4 ilm thick, 1/2 ilm thick, and 1 full ilm thick. The full ilm thickness seemed a bit much, but I did not know how a bullet would work against it. Testing the sheets was more difficult. I needed an earth gun, and there were not many people I knew who had one that I wanted to ask. Hello, Sam. May I borrow your gun? A shotgun? Why? I am making plexiglass that bullets cannot break. I wish to test it. Okay, first off, no, you can't borrow my shotgun, same as I can't borrow your rings. I just don't loan out my gun. I understand. Second, you don't just go shooting off a gun just anywhere. Sure, everyone's got one, but they don't go using it all over. Makes people nervous, brings out the deputies and all. I see. Then how and where can I test my plexiglass? It was early in the day, so Sam closed up the bar and went out to his truck. I brought my sheets of plexiglass out from the workshop and placed them in the back. Then we rode out into an emptier area outside of town and stopped at a small building with a large fence behind it and a sign that read Liberty Shooting Range. Inside the building, a man behind the counter greeted us. Morning, folks. How can I help you today? Sam gestured for me to speak. I told the man, I have some plexiglass I would like to test against bullets. Can I do that here? The man blinked at me, then grinned. Why, sure, we got folks here who'd be happy to shoot at anything you want. Bring it on in, I'll let people know. I got my sheets out of the truck. When I came back in the building, Sam held a door open for me in the back. Beyond the door was a large yard with what looked like a command pavilion tent close to the building and large mounds of dirt farther away. At the pavilion were people dressed in baggy clothes that reminded me of filibuster armor, colored green, brown, and black, sometimes in uneven patches. Most were men, though there was a woman too. All had guns of different sizes. They were gathered to watch me come in with my plexiglass. The shopkeeper smiled and gestured to me. So this little lady here, sorry, I didn't catch your name. I simply smiled. Right. This little lady here has some windows she'd like y'all to shoot at and test out for her. Who's up for that? Most of the people chuckled and raised their hands. Okay then. Miss, how about you set up your windows against the dirt mounds back there? I carried the sheets across the yard and set them upright side by side, about 5 palms apart. I tried to remember how far the car with the guns had been from the Flying Tiger's window, and walked about 6 yards out from the sheets. From here should be good. The gun people approached. 2 of them aimed their small guns at the thinnest sheet and shot. It broke after 5 shots. The half-film sheet was stronger against the small guns, but broke after 2 shots from a larger gun like Sam's, which he called a shotgun. A shotgun seems to shoot more than one bullet, or perhaps many small bullets. The elm-thick sheet was sturdier. The small guns could not break it. The shotguns could make it bounce but not crack. One person tried a longer gun that looked like something in a Garlean weapon. He stood farther back and tried 3 shots. The sheet's surface was damaged from all the bullets, but it did not break. The gun people were impressed with the thickest sheet. They were starting to congratulate me for it, but there was a man who had not shot. He stood staring at the unbroken sheet after everyone else was done. People got quiet when he said, "Let me get Natasha." He left for the main building. The other people talked quietly with each other. From what I could hear, they had not seen Natasha for a long time. I wondered who Natasha was. The man came back carrying a long case from which he took a long gun. I guess this was Natasha. He made the gun longer by attaching a piece to the end of the barrel and added another piece to the top. It reminded me a little of the weapon used by Mustadio in the Orbone monastery. It hurt a lot to be shot by that. The man set up a small stand on the ground for the gun and lay down behind it. Everyone was silent as he inserted a bullet into the gun, aimed at my sheet, and fired. The sheet did not break, but the bullet entered the sheet and lodged within it. A crack appeared above and below the bullet. The man loaded another bullet into the gun and fired again. It looked as if the bullet hit the same spot as the first bullet. The sheet split from top to bottom and nearly fell apart, with a hole in the middle where the bullets had been. The man seemed satisfied with the result. The other people chuckled some and said sympathetic things to me. I smiled and thanked them for their help. I collected the pieces of my plastic. The man who ran the shooting range gave me a plastic bag to carry them in. I thanked him and said I might be back with better plexiglass. He said I was welcome any time. As Sam drove us back to Wyatt, he asked, "So, why are you trying to make bulletproof glass anyway?" "Someone we know had his front window broken from a drive-by shooting. I am trying to replace it." Huh. They weren't shooting at you, right? We think they were, yes. Sam got more serious. Why'd someone be shooting at you? There are people who lost money betting against me at the fight club. They seem to still be unhappy about that. Sam did not say anything for a while. He simply watched the road and drove. Then he said, I think it's been ages since the diner had any remodeling done. Might want to see if Joel wants an upgrade for his windows. I thought about the large windows at the front of the diner. I thought about how visible we must be through those windows as we worked. I thought about the children that often came to the diner when we worked there. That is a good idea, Sam. Thank you. I will need a lot more corn. Husband met me at the workshop when he came back from flying tigers. I told him about the shooting range. He told me about his hostile encounter at the school. What is a Peking duck? That'll be what we'll have for dinner once we're through with this mess. He picked up my broken thick sheet and peered through the hole in the middle. So what happened here? Natasha. Ha! Who touched my gun? It was one of his jokes, perhaps from a video. I simply looked at him. Yeah, so how many shots did this take? Two, though there were many before it that did not make a hole. I do not know what the difference was. Just force, maybe the jacket. Average handgun bullet isn't really made to penetrate. Looks like Natasha found your grain. Grain? Yeah, like wood. You talked about your plastic being stringy? Yes. My reading said long molecules are stronger, so I tried to make plastic with long strings. Sure, but if you make all your strings go the same way, it's like wood. Wood's sort of made of strings too, and they all go in the same direction. That's the grain. Try to cut across the grain and the wood's strong. Try to cut with the grain and the wood can split, just like this. Even though the strings are strong. Yeah, because the force is going between them. Maybe you can make layers of strings going in different directions? Or even better, weave them like cloth? Weave them like cloth? I cannot see the strings, husband. How can I weave them? I don't know. How do we weave cloth? I I mean, it's not like we're moving the yarn around on a loom, right? We just have a supply of yarn and we transform it into the cloth. Your plastic is a supply of strings, so maybe you can do the same thing? I need to think about this. Of course, my love. I'll take the diner tonight. Thank you. I think this was part of what husband calls paradigm, that we do not think as much about how we do things as we do about simply doing them. I had learned crafting cloth using my tools and my ether shards and my yarn, and I had not thought much about the actual process. It is how we crafted anything from butter to barbets. There are some things, though, that husband does without ether first before writing a recipe for them, particularly things like food. I think it helps him hold the idea in his mind while he tries to create the thing, yet he is then able to create the thing with ether. I researched looms and watched videos of how they work. I understand now how cloth is made without ether shards. No, we do not move yarn around to make the cloth. We simply transform yarn into cloth, which made me doubt. Husband had worried about us trying to hold two ideas about how to do a thing in our minds. I began to understand why. I suddenly started to worry that our way of making cloth could not work because we were not using a loom. I had to use a lot of cotton to make a lot of cotton cloth to reaffirm I could do it the way I had always known. I will need to think about this doubt later. I thought about my plastic. Yes, it is a mass of strings I had made. Sorry. Yes, it is a mass of strings. I had made it to be a mass of strings. Each time I made plastic, I did it with the idea of the strings in mind. But I had only thought about more strings or longer strings. I had not thought about how the strings laid. Which meant what I needed to do was no longer alchemy. It was weaving. I set aside my alembic and drew my needle. I put away my water shards and selected wind shards. It was not easy to think about weaving strings I could not see. When the recipe worked at all, I had gone from having a mass of plastic to having a sheet of plastic with no true way of knowing if my strings had arranged themselves. Sam had said I should not use a gun just anywhere. So I tried testing the sheets with the level 30 bow we used for gator hunting. One sheet shattered into many pieces. One allowed an arrow to go through and then trapped it. I needed to use a camp lantern to light my target. By the time I made a sheet, the arrow did not break, but also did not enter. I had apparently woven strings the right way. It was ready to meet Natasha. Googling, Natasha, who touched my gun? Video, Team Fortress, meet the heavy. Today, husband went off in the morning to once again protect flying tigers, and I asked Sam to drive me out again to the shooting range. There were different people at the range today, but the man who owned Natasha was there again. I told him I had a new sheet for him to try. We spoke to the range manager, and he cleared the way to the gun people who had been practicing with targets. I set my sheet against a dirt mound. The man fetched Natasha once more and set up. Everyone was quiet as he took his first shot. The bullet hit the plastic and fell to the ground. It did not bounce as bullets did when they hit my armor. It simply stopped moving and dropped. The man looked up from his gun, then loaded another bullet and fired again. That bullet was stopped as well. The man considered for a moment, then got a bullet out of a different box in Natasha's case and loaded it. He took a bit more time making that shot. The noise from the gun was slightly louder than before. That time the bullet hit the plastic and stuck. We went out to see. The bullet had changed shape after hitting the plastic, looking slightly thicker, but had not gone very deep into the sheet. I was able to pull it out very easily. Everyone cheered for me. Natasha's owner was respectful and offered me his hand. Shaking hands is not something we commonly do in Eorzea, but I had seen husband do it, and so I shook his hand. Remembering arm wrestling with Sam, I tried not to squeeze too hard. The man asked, "So where can I find some of that plexiglass?" "I am sorry, I am not selling it right now, but I think I will call it Natasha glass." Thanks. "So why do you call your gun Natasha? Is it from Team Fortress?" He looked less happy with me. "No, that's a chain gun. This is a sniper rifle." "Oh, then why do you call it Natasha?" "Because sometimes I hunt moose and squirrel." Googling, Natasha hunt moose and squirrel. Rocky and Bullwinkle is an American animated television series that originally aired from November 19, 1959 to June 27, 1964. The main antagonists in most of their adventures are the two Russian-like spies, Boris Badenov and Natasha Fatal. It seems making jokes like husband is an Earth people thing. These have been a little long, so this will be my last entry for the evening. Grasshopper. I freely acknowledge that I could be the only one who remembers the original Kung Fu show. I would love to be proven wrong. No takers on that at the moment? That's cool. Everybody was Kung Fu fighting. Probably came from the show, yes. Kung Fu, the show started kind of a craze, which Neo managed to ruin. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, they had size. So I guess they were supposed to be Chinese pattern. Although they also had a katana, didn't they? I don't know. Never followed the turtles, kind of avoided them. especially the movies. It's a thing. That's the problem. Yes, they were cute. They were supposed to be ninjas. Ninjas do ninja stuff. I don't know. I watched a lot of Naruto. They were cute turtles that did ninja stuff. I'll take your word for it. But what have you thought about the movies? I couldn't get past the trailers. Any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, any of them. There was one in the 90s you believe that you liked. What was I doing in the 90s? Well, at that point, I certainly wasn't watching turtle movies. I mean, every time I saw a trailer for, every time I still see a trailer for a turtle movie, I'm like, oh my god, not another one? Well over a decade. Jerry, are you learning the importance of rose colored glasses? I certainly am. Anyway, entry number 99 by Steve. Grasshopper. I'll be installing Tony's window tomorrow. Sorry, starting over. I'll be installing Tsu'na's window tomorrow. She's worked hard on it and burned through a hell of a lot of corn. I kind of felt bad for her not being able to actually see it in use, though from what she said, we should probably make windows just like it for the diner. And I should probably help her gather corn once my days are free of Tony. I think Tony's looking forward to when his days are free of me. I gave him a nod when I got to find tigers in the morning. He stayed wary of me for a while until he saw all I was doing was cleaning and not waving edged weapons around. Still no morning busload of tots, so his time was spent either directing me to perform some menial task or staring morosely through the door. When he took an early lunch, I went into the back room and brought out the engine from the workshop. It came in a small wooden crate, which I set on Tony's desk. I was able to pry the top off, but I saw the engine had been bolted to the bottom. I didn't have a wrench, and the bolts were a bit too small for me to grip properly, so I could only look at it in its crate. Tony came back with his food and saw the crate. The hell is that? Just an engine I bought. Engine? He came over and looked. This isn't a garage. Get this thing off my desk. He put down his food, grabbed the engine, and tried to heave it. Not expecting a 150-pound weight, he got it up maybe an inch before letting it fall back down with a bang. I shoved him aside. Easy with that. It's expensive. I picked up the crate, set it on the floor, and pounded the top back on. I left Tony scowling at the crate. He didn't need me see. He didn't need to see me put it back in my inventory. A bit after noon, I finished on the wall mirrors and told Tony, I'm going to hit the coffee shop across the street. Do you want anything? You getting lunch? Chinese place around the corner is a lot cheaper. I decided to be open with him. Yeah, but the coffee shop's a good place to stake out to school. I want to see if anyone's doing that. He looked at me steadily for a long moment before saying, caramel latte. You got it. Maybe a slice of lemon cake? Sure. I got out before he could work himself up to ask for a sandwich. The coffee shop had some pre-lunchers in it, but wasn't crowded. There were some people lingering with laptops, a couple lingering with cell phones, and look out of the long shots lingering with a view at the open window, out the front window. He'd have seen me come out of Flying Tigers, but he didn't visibly react to me. I pondered the menu, studied the display case, browsed the biscotti, and generally gave him enough time to do something about me, but all he did was give me a sidelong glance when he thought I wasn't looking. Eventually, he was joined by a new guy. I guess lead guy was on the bench after what I did to his arm. They talked a bit, and new guy checked me out, but otherwise, they stayed focused on the school. I suspect I look a lot smaller when I'm out of my armor, so Lookout would have no reason to connect me. I got Tony's coffee and cake and a stupidly expensive tea and headed back. Tony wasn't thrilled to learn that the long shots were still interested in him, but at least they hadn't come back inside. Yet. More of the power lunchers came in today, so maybe Tony's business will recover after all. Tony put me to work on a new task, striking dummy. He gave me a couple armed guards and had the businessmen take turns practicing their kickboxing on me. They were surprisingly strong for suits, but I was stronger. They were fast, but I was faster. Strength and dex for the win. 3 yoga ladies showed up for the after lunch session. I tried giving them pleasant smiles, but I guess they were self-conscious enough to not want a stranger hanging around looking at them. After a few uncomfortable glances from them, I retired to the back room to let Tony stretch them as he might. Then came the quiet stretch where Tsu'na and I typically showed up for training. It stayed quiet. It was followed by more quiet when the kindergartners still didn't show. I ran out of things to clean, and Tony ran out of things to tell me to do, so I played a lot of nonogram on my phone. I wondered if the long shots were still watching the place, but I didn't feel enough of a need for stupidly expensive tea to find out. Toward the end of that, Tsu'na messaged me that her Natasha glass was ready. I wonder what posterity will think of the name. I watched as the teenagers came in later. The one who looked at me funny yesterday came up and tossed something at my feet. Turned out to be a plastic ant figurine. He stood there looking at me, waiting for a reaction. In the 1970s show Kung Fu, young Caine befriended an old blind teacher at the Shaolin Monastery, who came to call him grasshopper as sort of an in-joke. Much later in the series, a fellow student carved a wooden ant figurine and offered it to Caine. Caine felt it was an insult and refused the gift. The woodcarver felt it was an insult to not accept the gift. They fought a duel over it, and Caine lost. In 24 hours, the kid at Flying Tigers had gone from not understanding my 50-year-old pop culture reference to literally throwing one back at me. That was serious nerdage. I didn't have Tsu'na's practice of pulling punches, so if we reenacted the duel scene, even in play, I might have accidentally wiped the floor with the kid. Plus, that would give me more attention than I particularly wanted. I bent down and picked up the ant. Thank you. I accept your gift. I couldn't tell if the kid was relieved or disappointed as he walked away. Tony was sufficiently satisfied with my performance as a striking dummy, or he was sufficiently amused at me being kicked, that he had me reprise my role for the teenagers. No armed guards this time. He introduced me as his temporary assistant, Sal. Okay, guys, take turns and show Sal what you've got. And if anyone manages to take him down, pizza for the class on me. None of the kids knew this was the Carney Sucker Prize, so they all got ready. The bigger and stronger kids let the littler and weaker ones suss me out and possibly wear me down. Tony didn't explicitly say defense only, but that's what I gave. I blocked punches and kicks, I ducked out of holds, I jumped over leg sweeps and basically gave them nothing. Ant Kid was in the middle of the pack. He was a fast little scrapper, but his reach was a tad short. He'd have to get inside someone else's range to do serious damage, but he probably looked good to a point counter. As it was, he wound up punching rapid fire into my palms before giving me a nod and stepping aside. Then came the bigger kids, or perhaps young adults for some of them. They were strong, they were proud, they were arrogant, and they were each very frustrated to not get as much as a clean hit on me. I don't think it was the desire for pizza that drove them. They seemed to have something to prove. They just weren't proving it with me. When I didn't turn out to be an easy target, they threw everything they had at me, and each wound up exhausted as they made room for the next one. When they were all done, Tony came out and said, "Okay, nice effort. Now, how about I show you how it's done?" He turned to me. "Ready?" Did he think the kids had tired me out? Did he think I could no longer drive him through the floor if I wanted? I had no idea what lead I was supposed to follow, but I didn't particularly want to embarrass him. Master Shen, I'm not trained for that. I hoped Tony would take the hint that I hadn't been the one he'd helped teach how not to hurt people. He didn't. "Come on, just a little light sparring. You'll be fine." I managed humility. I raised my palms. "Yeah, no, I'm not going up against a master." His face looked like it was shopping for an expression. Then he snorted and turned to the kids. "You know what? You guys gave it your best. Let's go get that pizza." They grabbed their gear and headed out. I wasn't invited, and I was fine with that. My expectations with Tsu'na had made me picky about my pizza anyway. Tony locked the front door, and I let myself out the back. I returned, went to the workshop, and found my wife fresh back from corn harvesting. We slipped our arms around each other. I rested my head on her shoulder. One more day. And then Peking duck? Of course, my love.